I want to make a very short video showing the aspects of using the Granberg Alaskan 24 mil and then finishing off our boards with the Granberg Edging mill. First thing that we need to do is the first cut coming off of your log has to be used. You need a rail, or I use a nice stiff aluminum ladder. The key here is that you want to have you see those 2x4s that are holding the ladder in position. You want to position those so that your cut is parallel to the center of the log, because the one end will always flare up a little bit. So I position them, and I will say I might put that 2x4 so it's 1 inch above the center on each end, top, between the ladder and the log about halfway down, or it tends to chatter and then you get a little bit rougher cut. But once the ladder is attached, and it's really handy to have a battery powered screw gun for putting in some Torx head screws to take a lot of the effort. So if you got a little level along, just when you go to put the 2x4s on there and you get a position to say 1 inch above the center line, you also want to have them so that they are parallel with each other from one end to the other, so that then when you put the ladder on, it will fit on there solid and you'll know that you've got it right. And then it's just a matter of taking the Granberg mill, the Alaskan 24 as it's set up, and I'll show in a second how we put it in there. And then you go along, and after a little while, as you're cutting, you do throw a shim in there to keep any pressure off the blade. But this is how simple it is, and it's slow. In 8 minutes to cut a 10-foot plank. It varies with how dense the wood is, how wide the wood is, and then how sharp your saw is. Working alone, I find it easiest to do my first cut on these logs with it laying on the ground. And I will usually take off at least 1/3 of the log on this cut. I don't like taking a sliver off the top because it's harder to anchor the 2x4s and things like that. You'll see that when you get going. So I cut off a slab that I'll be able to handle and put up on my bench to finish cutting it. And any logs that remain too heavy, I will take another cut on the ground. As you near the end of the cut, you want to make sure that you have your wedges in position so that the saw exits the kerf cleanly without binding up when the wood drops on it. And it's just a matter of hitting the chain brake to stop the chain. I usually let the saw cool down, so I don't shut it off right away. I slide it off and I set it aside. And then this is where you're handy to have the electric powered screwdriver, because I pull those pieces out that are holding the ladder so it won't chatter, and then I go to flip the ladder off out of the way, and then I need to take off my 2x4 guides that I put out there. And again, this is where the electric screwdriver, it just makes things go so much faster than if you're out there any other method you were trying to use. Once I have a thick slab that I can handle by carrying it, I bring it over to these uprights that I have posted into the ground so they're solid. Sometimes you're sawing, the log will want to slip along a little bit, so I'm going to take a screw and I'm going to put it in right into the bottom and into my anchor log, and just make sure you drive it down far enough that there's no chance your saw blade's ever going to touch it. This is the Granberg Alaskan 24-inch mill, and it'll cut a 24-inch wide if you have a 28-inch bar. I'm only running a 24-inch bar, so I'm limited to about an 18-inch cut, which is as big as my logs are anyway. You slide it in and you get it in position, and you center where it clamps down between so you're not touching any of the teeth on your chain. You take a wrench and you tighten that down. The Granberg Alaskan 24 mil on the left is what I'll be cutting the slab with, and then I'll be finishing the edges with the Granberg Edging mill shown on the right. With your saw sharpened up, full of fuel, you're ready to come in and lay it on your flat side of the log. No ladder required now because we have the flat surface to slide along. One hint is as you start, you kind of go at an angle so that the guide bars stay on top of the wood really well and you don't have any trouble getting that back edge onto the log. You just need to be a little careful there not to keep your pressure just right. Keep a good true cut going. And then once you get going after a while, you'll put some wedges in to keep any pressure off the blade. Now we'll set the plank up here to cut the live edge off the sides of the board we've cut. On top of this straight 2x10, I have these rails that you get from Granberg. It's a V that sticks up and you screw it on there, and then this is what the Granberg edging mill slides along to keep a true cut. And once you get it set where you want, you put a screw down through to anchor it so that you just have your edging cut right where you want it. Now we just put the Granberg mini mill, or the edging mill as they call it now, and we use that little angle of aluminum on top. It fits a guide on the edging mill. We just push it along and cut that live edge off of the log, get to the other end. You just drop the saw down, and then we need to pull the screws out of the guide board. We need to spin it around and then line it up again with the other edge that we want to take off the board. I found it easiest to just go along as I do this. As I cut a plank, I would just edge it right away. I let the bigger saw cool down while I was doing this before I cut another slab. Once our guide board is screwed in again, it's just a matter of picking up the edging mill again and running it along that rail. Now here you see I've got sawdust flying up in the air, and if you do want to turn it around, it's possible to pull it toward you and then the saw blade cutting on the other side. You'll see what I mean if you try to do it, and then the sawdust is shooting down. It's up to your choice how you want to do it. It works either way. You always kick those brakes down whenever you're moving these saws around. You don't want to stumble. And then we just take the guide board off, get our screws pulled out, and then we have a finished plank. It's not a super fast process, but it makes good lumber and very economical to do.